Chapter 1430. He hoped that this merit would allow them to meet again in their next life. If someone was willing to work as a free school doctor, he would be happy to do so no matter what their motive was. With someone looking after the infirmary for him, he could buy fresh vegetables every morning and cook for Guogua. In the afternoon, he could even make some afternoon tea for Guogua. There were many students in the university. If not for these free apprentices, he would still be busy and would have to deal with some small matters every day. He felt that such a life was perfect. Holding Guogua's hand was like holding the whole world. Eat more. You've lost weight recently. Qiao Ji looked at Tangua's face that had lost its baby fat and touched it. You've lost a lot of weight. The system was showing off again. The host had grown taller, not skinnier. Ge, your culinary skills have improved again. Tangua was not stingy with her compliments. It's delicious. If it's delicious, then eat more. What do you want for dinner? What do you want to drink in the afternoon? Qiao Ji acted like a househusband. The system was already numb. This fellow, sigh, let's not talk about it anymore. She was so obedient that the host could not bear to abandon her. Ge, everything is delicious. I like to eat it. Everything is good. I'm not picky. The system was right. She would not be picky if it was Qiao Ji who made it. The last time at the class gathering, someone only ate a small mouthful and called Qiao Ji after returning home. She said that the food in the restaurant was really bad and did not eat more than 2 mouthfuls. She was still hungry now. Then, Qiao Ji, that unprincipled fellow, actually made food in the middle of the night and sent it to her. The system silently thought, how could this world be so evil to single people? When Qiao Ji heard Tangua's words, the smile on his handsome face did not disappear. Then I'll make soup tonight. You've lost so much weight recently. It's good to nourish your body. Tangua nodded. Okay. She did not reject at all. Anyway, she was not afraid of gaining weight. Qiao Ji's culinary skills were really good. This fellow was good at holding scalpels. She did not expect him to be so good at holding a kitchen knife. Haven't those hospitals come to you recently? Tangua asked. Qiao Ji shook her head. No, I'm very free right now. It's not like those old fellows don't have the ability. They have plenty of experience, but their ideas aren't as bold as mine. After a little discussion, they'll all understand. After a few more years, I'll become more and more free. Gigi. Guogua, what are you trying to say? You're so talented in medicine. At your age, you'll definitely be able to achieve great things in medicine. You might even be able to leave a mark in history. Isn't it a pity to give up like this? If you want these things, I don't mind. I don't want you to give up your dreams just because you want to accompany me. Qiao Ji held Tangua's hand and said gently, Guogua, my dream is to always hold your hand, take care of you, love you, and accompany you. Fame and fortune are not important to me. I've already written down everything I know in the book, and I've also returned what I've learned. I think that the current situation is very good. If there's anything you need me for, I won't refuse. But there are many talented people in this world. One day, there will be someone more outstanding than me. This person's biggest dream will definitely be to achieve great things in the medical world. But my biggest dream is to wait for you to graduate and marry you. Chapter 1431. Tangua was amused by Qiao Ji's sincere words and serious expression. She ate the food that Qiao Ji had personally cooked and said, Ji, you have to work hard if you want to marry me. I will. I'm working hard every day. Have you eaten? Tangua suddenly asked. She looked up and saw that he was about to speak. She interrupted, if you want to marry me, the first condition is that you can't lie to me. I haven't had time to eat. Qiao Ji's eyes were filled with helplessness. He did not dare to lie to her and said truthfully, then let's eat together. No. Qiao Ji refused. If I eat, it won't be enough for you. If you're not full, you'll be hungry in the afternoon. Tangua smiled. You brought me food in the afternoon. How can it not be enough? Don't tell me you're not coming in the afternoon. Of course I'm coming. Qiao Ji said hurriedly. Then, He saw Tang were placing food in front of him. His heart skipped a beat and almost jumped out of his chest. This was probably the most intimate moment they had ever been in all the years they had known each other. Ge, open your mouth. Qiao Ge opened his mouth obediently. His eyes were filled with love as he looked at her face. He felt that the food in his mouth tasted 70% better than before. This 70% was all because of her concern and joy. Let's go. Dr. Qiao and his girlfriend are showing off their love again. Let's go. It's noon. How can we live? The two of them ate one mouthful after another. They did not realize that the tables and chairs under the shade of the trees were empty. They really could not stand the two of them showing off their love every day. It made them very uncomfortable. It was said that Dr. Qiao had changed from being the school doctor of Beauty Tang's high school to being the school doctor of her university in order to pursue her. They also knew the few senior school doctors in the infirmary. They were all very famous doctors in charge of the major hospitals. What was unbelievable was that these amazing people actually came to their school to be free school doctors. Even in front of school Dr. Qiao, he was still polite and full of smiles. At first, they did not understand why. Later, they accidentally heard about some things and the medical book that Qiao Ji had compiled. She finally understood that this young Dr. Qiao wasn't a simple person. The first people to know of him were the medical students of this school. Every time they saw Qiao Ji, their eyes would twinkle. The girls in the school envied Tang were the most. Her boyfriend had spoiled his girlfriend like a little princess, while Dr. Qiao had turned Beauty Tang into an empress. The boys envied Qiao Ji for being able to gain the favor of their school's #1 beauty. Campus Belle Tang was not only good at her grades. In school, as long as she was involved in something, the final result would be perfect. They didn't dare to do anything. In their eyes, this pair was very compatible. After the two of them finished their food, Qiao Ji carried the thermos in one hand and held Tangguo's hand with the other and slowly left. The tables and chairs that were originally empty were now filled with people. It wasn't that they didn't want to get closer to the two of them, but they couldn't stand the bowl after bowl of dog food. If she stayed with them for too long, she would turn into a sour lemon spirit sooner or later. They envied such a beautiful love, but in their hearts, they knew very well that they could not get it. Guogua, I just took a picture. Peek. Chapter 1432. What photo? Of course, Tangguo knew that Qiao Ji was standing at the side in a daze. This system of hers was getting more and more obedient. Once there was a familiar or suspicious person, it would immediately report it to her. The system had told her about Qiao Ji taking photos. Qiao Ji had done such things many times before. Her phone was filled with her photos, so she wasn't surprised. But since Qiao Ji specially mentioned this, she asked. Qiao Ji took out her phone and showed her the photo. Guogua, I think this smile is a little charming. System, fart. Tangguo glanced at the phone screen and was stunned. That smile did look a little naughty. Guogua's smile has always been clean and sweet. Her smile can easily affect people's hearts. But when I saw this naughty smile, I couldn't tell north from south. Ge, your aesthetic sense is really different from the rest. Qiao Ji kept her phone and held Tangguo's hand. She said softly, I just feel that this naughty smile is more suitable. It looks so wanton, free, carefree, and unrestrained. I like to show such a smile. It's as if I've encountered something happy. That's why I'm infatuated with it. System, isn't it happy? Seeing that Wu Lingling is getting more and more unlucky, the host is very happy. However, this fellow really had sharp eyes. He could tell at a glance that this was the real host. If Ge likes it, I'll smile for you every day in the future. How about that? Tangguo looked into Qiao Ji's eyes with a smile. When Qiao Ji saw that smile, his heart skipped a beat as if it was going to stop. Of course. But he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to find the right direction. This kind of guogua made him unable to stop and unable to be himself. Compared to the smoothness and sweetness between Tangguo and Qiao Ji, Wu Lingling and Lu Jing's days were already starting to have conflicts. Ever since the gathering with Brother Knife and the others, Wu Lingling had heard that Lu Jing was getting better and better, and that he was even fancied by many rich young ladies. She was anxious and afraid of losing Lu Jing. Every day, she looked forward to Lu Jing's return. When she sent Lu Jing off in the morning, she was reluctant to part with him. Lu Jing was very happy at first. How could he not be happy when the girl he liked cared so much about him? As a result, he didn't feel anything when he encountered trouble in the company. It was as if hope had been born in his heart. Even if the Lu family targeted him and hated him, he would still fight hard for the girl he liked. What Wu Lingling didn't know was that her concern had given the dispirited Lu Jing confidence again. He wanted to work hard and give her a better future. Wu Lingling, who cared about him so much, was the last straw in his life. His faith had already been destroyed, but Wu Lingling's concern for him had reignited his fighting spirit. While he was burning with a raging fire, Wu Lingling looked at Lu Jing, who was getting better and better. Lu Jing, who was returning home later and was getting busier and busier. The fear that rose in her heart had reached its peak. All that was needed was a trigger that could be triggered at any time. Wu Lingling, who had broken down, would no longer be Lu Jing's fighting spirit. Instead, she would be a death sentence. On this day, Lu Jing had another social event. As long as he won this project, he would definitely make Father Lu look at him in a different light. Peak. Chapter 1433. It was already 9 o'clock at night. Usually, Lu Jing would have been home by this time. Even though Lu Jing had told Wu Lingling that he had an important social engagement today, she thought that he would only be home slightly later than usual. Lu Jing usually returned home at 7 o'clock. She was 2 hours late and he was still not home. Wu Lingling panicked and quickly called Lu Jing. Because it was an important social engagement, Lu Jing was afraid of delaying the collaboration with the client. His phone was switched off and Wu Lingling's calls did not go through. She was restless at home and would call Lu Jing every once in a while. At this moment, Tang Guo was also lying on the bed in the dormitory with her eyes closed. Through the monitoring screen, she was watching the situation between Wu Lingling and Lu Jing. Lu Jing's face was full of smiles and he seemed to be having a good conversation with the other party. Seeing this, Tang Guo was not very happy. Wu Lingling tried to call Lu Jing again, but it still did not go through. Her mind was filled with thoughts of the day when she heard from Brother Knife and the others that Lu Jing was getting better and better. She panicked. Seeing this, Tang Guo was very happy. Tongzi, can you turn on Lu Jing's phone? Tang Guo's lips curled into a naughty smile. I don't want to see him get this project. She had a grudge against Lu Jing for killing her. She would feel unhappy if the other party treated her well. Yes, great host. I have already implanted a virus in Lu Jing's phone. I can control and turn on his phone at any time. Then turn it on for him. Wu Lingling is my cousin after all. If she still can't get through to him, she will be anxious and cry. Since we are relatives, I will help her. Hearing this, the string of data in the system trembled. This bad woman. Relatives. Kind-hearted help. This bad woman didn't explain herself. Even when doing bad things, she made it sound so elegant and refined. As the system was thinking this, it had already started the virus program and turned on Lu Jing's phone. Unless his phone ran out of battery, it would not be able to be turned off. Seeing that Lu Jing and the client were getting better and better, they were just short of signing the contract. Wu Lingling called Lu Jing again. When the phone rang, Lu Jing didn't respond. Because he remembered that his phone was turned off, he looked at the customer and thought that it was the other party's phone. After a few rings, Lu Jing realized that something was wrong. The other party also reminded him that it was his phone that was ringing. His expression was a little strange. He stood up and smiled apologetically. Chairman Shu, I'm sorry. I have to take a call first. I'm fine. If it was someone else, Lu Jing might not have cared. However, he had to answer Wu Lingling's call. Moreover, he saw that there were many missed calls. He thought that something had happened to Wu Lingling. Lu Jing, where did you go? Why aren't you back yet? Lu Jing answered the call and Wu Lingling's voice sounded, Why aren't you back yet? Lu Jing, come back quickly. Lingling, I have a very important client here. I'm about to sign the contract. I'll come back once I'm done. It's almost 10 o'clock. Wu Lingling didn't understand these things at all. Her mind was filled with thoughts of Lu Jing's change of heart. She recalled the various scenes she had seen in television dramas, and her suspicions grew that Lu Jing was out with another woman. Her unrelenting attitude made Lu Jing feel a little helpless, but at this moment, he did not have the intention to get angry. He only felt that Wu Lingling cared too much about him. Chapter 1434. Chairman Shu, who had a good impression of Lu Jing, coaxed Wu Lingling for a long time. He even sent his assistant outside to check on the situation. When he found out that Lu Jing was coaxing his girlfriend, his good impression of him instantly dropped. 10 minutes passed. 20 minutes passed. Wu Lingling was still unwilling to give up. Chairman Shu had lost his patience. They were working on an important project, but Lu Jing threw him aside just to coax his girlfriend. He waited for 20 minutes. Firstly, he was sure of Lu Jing's ability. Secondly, he was giving face to Lu Corporation. Now that Lu Jing had disgraced him, he could forget about the collaboration. When Lu Jing finally coaxed Wu Lingling, he saw Chairman Shu coming out of the private room with a cold face. He hurriedly chased after him and apologized. Chairman Shu, I'm sorry. Just now, Manager Lu, since you're busy, go ahead. It's really late today. I'm planning to go back to accompany my wife so that she won't worry. Chairman Shu smiled. Usually, my wife is afraid of affecting my work, so she won't call me. In order to not worry her, I have to go back. Chairman Shu, then, Lu Jing still wanted to talk about the collaboration, but Chairman Shu had already left. He had no intention of turning back and did not mention the collaboration. He was not a fool. Of course, he knew that he had offended Chairman Shu today. He looked a little annoyed. He felt that Chairman Shu was too heartless. For the time being, he did not blame Wu Lingling for the matter. Seeing Chairman Shu leaving Lu Jing behind, Tanguo fell asleep happily. Before sleeping, she reminded the system, remember to turn on Lu Jing's phone in the future. Oh right, insert a small advertisement for the couple location for Wu Lingling. She's very smart. I believe she will know what to do. System, oh my god, this woman is really bad. But of course, it had to satisfy the host's request. If there was a first time, there would be a second time. Lu Jing returned home slightly later, and Wu Lingling would call him. Originally, he was having a good discussion with the client, but because of coaxing Wu Lingling, he would miss the opportunity to collaborate. This happened a few times. Father Lu was already very dissatisfied with Lu Jing. Lu Jing also knew that this could not go on. Every time he turned off his phone, it would turn on again. He thought that it was because his phone was broken and even bought a new one. But at the crucial moment, it was still the same. In the end, he decided to blacklist Wu Lingling's number when they were discussing business. Wu Lingling got anxious when she couldn't get through. He had accidentally seen a small advertisement somewhere and knew that he could locate it. While Lu Jing was sleeping at home, she secretly located Lu Jing's phone. Sometimes, she couldn't get through to Lu Jing's phone. She thought that he must have done something to let her down. She had to find out which bitch had seduced her Lu Jing. She was going to teach that bitch a lesson. Another day, Lu Jing was still not back by 10 o'clock. Sure enough, he always succeeded in blacklisting Wu Lingling when they were discussing business. On this day, because this client was more difficult to deal with, he spent a lot of time on it. Wu Lingling couldn't get through, so she had no choice but to locate Lu Jing. Seeing that Lu Jing's location was displayed in a large tavern, Zhong Xian immediately headed over to look for him. Perhaps it was Lu Jing's bad luck. When Wu Lingling pushed open the door to the private room, the client's secretary happened to be pouring wine for him. If Wu Lingling saw it, how could that be? Vertex. Chapter 1435. She rushed over and splashed the wine glass on the secretary's face. She was a gangster and was used to fighting. She grabbed the secretary's hair, pinned her to the ground and slapped her hard. As she slapped her, she scolded, "Little bitch, how dare you seduce Lu Jing? I'll beat you to death. How dare you seduce Lu Jing? Don't you know how old you are? You're really an old cow who wants to eat young grass." At that moment, there was silence in the private room. The secretary who was pinned to the ground was actually the client's mistress. The client was the first to react. He kicked Wu Lingling and sent her flying. Wu Lingling was kicked in the waist by the man. Before she could react, she curled up on the ground and screamed in pain. Lu Jing also reacted. Seeing Wu Lingling in pain, the anger in his heart dissipated. He couldn't be bothered to scold her and hurried over to check on her. The mistress, who was slapped a few times, threw herself into the client's arms and started crying. Tang Guo naturally wouldn't miss such an exciting scene. "What a good show. System, Lingling, are you okay? It hurts." Wu Lingling's face was pale as she clutched her waist. Lu Jing hurriedly carried Wu Lingling up and looked coldly at the client. "President Liu, aren't you going overboard? No matter what, you shouldn't be so heavy-handed. Too much. Manager Liu, I also want to ask why this crazy woman suddenly rushed into the private room and hit my secretary without a word. I was wondering who it was. So this crazy woman is your woman. Manager Liu, can you keep your woman in check? She can go crazy anytime. I don't know who she will bite next time." President Liu held his secretary's hand and left. He wanted to pursue the matter, but Lu Jing was the young master of the Lu family and Wu Lingling looked seriously injured. Lu Jing's life would be more difficult if he lost this contract. There were many people who wanted to mess with Lu Jing. This young master of the Lu family was useless. As long as this crazy woman was around, he could forget about making a name for himself. Lu Jing wanted to blame Wu Lingling, but his heart softened when he saw her pale face. He carried her to the hospital for treatment. President Liu's kick was indeed not light. Wu Lingling was seriously injured. There was no way to pursue this responsibility. Wu Lingling also knew that she had misunderstood, so she kept apologizing to Lu Jing. In the end, the two of them reconciled. However, she did not know that Father Lu had already given up on Lu Jing and would not give him any chance to rise again. Therefore, Lu Jing's future was ruined by Wu Lingling. Tang Guo did not continue to pay attention to it. The system would keep an eye on it. It was said that Lu Jing was in an unimportant position in the Lu Corporation. He had no future and had become the laughingstock of the Lu family. Wu Lingling, on the other hand, was very satisfied because Lu Jing could finally come home on time. Even now, she was still very strict with Lu Jing. Both Mr. Lu and the Lu family knew about Wu Lingling. But she was just a pawn that had been abandoned. They did not care at all what kind of woman Lu Jing would marry in the future. Therefore, when Lu Jing arranged for Wu Lingling to work beside him, no one objected. In the blink of an eye, another few years passed. Tang Guo had already graduated from university. After she graduated, she took over her family's company and did not go to work elsewhere. As for Qiao Ji, she was promoted from Dr. Qiao to Secretary Qiao. The Peak. Chapter 1436. Ge, I didn't expect you to be so good at everything. Qiao Ji was sitting in the office, helping Tang Guo with some documents. She looked up and smiled. I didn't know about these things at first, but after spending some time learning, I'll be able to do it. That's because Ge is smart. Some people can't learn it in their entire lives. Tang Guo was not stingy with her praise. Let me make you a cup of coffee. You've worked hard. Why would I work hard? It's only right for me to help my wife. That's right, Qiao Ji had finally succeeded in obtaining his greatest achievement. On the day of Tang Guo's graduation, he had proposed to her and she had happily agreed. Father and Mother Tang had seen everything with their own eyes. How could they reject such an outstanding person? Their daughter was getting better and better. Now, everything was back on track. Qiao Ji was also devoted to Tang Guo. They couldn't be more satisfied. They had lived for so many years, but they had never seen such an infatuated follower. When their daughter was studying, Qiao Ji would be the school doctor. When she went to university, he would be the school doctor. When she returned home to take over the company, he would be their daughter's secretary. Sometimes, when they entered the company to discuss matters with Tang Guo, they would see Xiao Ji sitting at the side, seriously handling the company's matters. Their precious daughter, on the other hand, was sitting in front of the computer, buying. They believed that their daughter would also be able to handle the company's documents. Otherwise, they wouldn't have trusted her with the company. As for why Xiao Ji was the one doing all these things now, it was obviously because he didn't want their daughter to tire herself out. Seeing this situation, the two of them were very satisfied. However, when there was no one around, for example, in the room at home when Tang Guo wasn't home, they would hug each other and look at each other for a long time. Their eyes were red and there were tears in them. There was no need to say a word. They only used their eyes to convey the secret they wanted to say. Their daughter was good and outstanding. She had a bright future and a man who loved her. But, if only they didn't have that dream, they would definitely be satisfied. That dream had already become their nightmare. They would never be able to forget it even after death. Even now, it was still deeply etched in their minds. The happier Tang Guo was, the more tormented their hearts would be. They would recall over and over again everything that had happened to the Tang Guo in their dreams. They thought of the culprit behind all this, Wu Lingling. Get married? Tang Guo wasn't surprised, but father and mother Tang had come to inform her directly after hearing the news. It could be seen that the two of them were feigning ignorance and wanted to ask her what her plans were. Yeah, your aunt called yesterday and asked us to attend the wedding of Lingling and young Master Lu. There was no smile on Mrs. Tang's face. The way she saw it, Wu Lingling was such a bad person. How could she have married into the Lu family? So, after some discussion, the couple decided to look for Tang Guo. They glanced at Xiao Ji, who was sitting behind her desk and seriously handling documents. Their mood improved a lot. We haven't been in contact with your aunt for many years, Mrs. Tang said. She invited all our relatives. Xiao Guo, if you don't want to go, we'll turn her down. We don't have much to do with your aunt's family. She understood what Qin Ruolan meant. Wasn't Wu Lingling marrying into the Lu family and becoming their daughter-in-law? She was marrying into a rich family. She would have to show off in front of her. Peak. Chapter 1437. Mrs. Tang did not want to see Qin Ruolan's family at all, especially Wu Lingling. Wu Lingling had gotten involved with the young master of the Lu family and was about to marry into a rich family. Mrs. Tang felt that the heavens were blind. How could such an evil person like Wu Lingling have such a good life? Even if her roots were rotten, she would still be able to marry into such a family. Even if the young master of the Lu family was not that outstanding and did not have a high status in the Lu family. But for Wu Lingling's family, they were really climbing up the social ladder. The better off Wu Lingling was, the more upset Mrs. Tang felt. Mrs. Tang could not help but wonder if life would change for the better if one was shameless in this world. If one was shameless, one could live a long life and be blessed with good fortune. Tang Guo could sense Mrs. Tang's discomfort because Wu Lingling's life would change for the better. She could not help but smile. Would Wu Lingling's life change for the better? No, from the day Wu Lingling married into the Lu family, she would no longer have a good life. Lu Jing's intelligence was something that the young master who was chosen to inherit the Lu family was wary of. He would not be at ease until he made sure that Lu Jing would never be able to make a comeback. Since it's the young master of the Lu family's wedding, it wouldn't be nice if Mom and Dad turned it down. After all, we have a partnership with the Lu family. Tang Guo said. Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang could not understand what Tang Guo was thinking. Since she said that she would go, then she would go. They did not think that Tang Guo would want Wu Lingling to have a good life. They were here to see Tang Guo's attitude. Even though they did not want to admit it, this outstanding young lady was indeed not their daughter. No matter how smart their daughter was, there was no way she could have taken over their company in such a short period of time. In less than a year, she had expanded the company by more than 2 times. Tang Guo was experienced in dealing with things. It could be said that even their business partners were not as capable as her. The two of them took a look at Xiao Ji, who was still working on the documents seriously, and bade farewell to Tang Guo. They felt terrible staying here. Host, your parents look terrible. Aren't you going to comfort them? From the moment they found out the truth, they were no longer my parents. They were the original owner's parents. This is the punishment they deserve. No matter how bad it is, it won't bring the original owner back. So, just bear with it. There are many people in this world who are more miserable than them. The system sighed. All right, this bad woman was still as hard-hearted as ever. She probably couldn't change that. Even if the guy she liked was disobedient and bullied her, he couldn't escape being thrown away in the end, let alone people like Mother Tang and Father Tang. Guogua, Dad and Mom don't look too happy. Actually, Xiao Ji had long realized that Father Tang and Mother Tang were different from what he had imagined. With such a smart daughter like his wife, the couple didn't seem as happy as he had imagined. The two of them were proud of Tang Guo, but there seemed to be something missing between them. Maybe Wu Lingling's matter made them unhappy. Xiao Ji recalled the things that Wu Lingling had done in the past and understood a little. Even though he felt that there was more to the matter, he didn't probe any further. He really liked his current life. Even though he was busy, with his wife by his side, he was very happy. Tang Guo looked at Xiao Ji's satisfied expression and couldn't help but laugh. Isn't Ji too easily satisfied? After meeting him so many times, he's getting more and more easily satisfied. Peak. Chapter 1438. Host, don't say that. It's because you've always told him not to be greedy. This guy must have cursed himself to not be greedy and easily satisfied. He's sincere enough. Tang Guo said, he's so ruthless to himself. I'm a little curious. Who is he? Did anything happen between us? Is he my enemy, or is there some other relationship? The system looked at Tang Guo's slightly narrowed eyes and thought that his host definitely didn't say these words to ask if they should forgive each other because of the unpleasant things that happened between them in the past. Most likely, he was thinking about how he would exact his vengeance once he regained all of his memories. No matter how obedient he is, if there's a deep grudge between us when I fully recover my memory, Tang Guo sneered. I won't be merciful. System, I knew it. Xiao Ji felt that the way his wife looked at him was chilly. He thought about it. He hadn't provoked her recently. Since he met her, he didn't seem to have done anything to let Guogua down. Why did Guogua reveal such a cold, half-smiling expression? He coughed softly. He thought that Tang Guo's murderous gaze was not directed at him, but at Wu Lingling. Guogua was so nice to him. How could she have such a terrifying gaze? He must have met her gaze and Guogua couldn't control herself. Thinking of this, Xiao Ji looked at the documents and dealt with the company's affairs. After Tang Guo made him a cup of coffee, she sat at the side and bought things leisurely. Ever since she took control of the company, she had been living leisurely every day. Finally, it was the day of Wu Lingling's wedding. Qin Ruolan had invited all of Wu Lingling's relatives. Of course, Wu Lingling had agreed to this. Now that she had joined a rich family, she didn't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of her life. Lu Jing was obedient to her. She wanted everyone to open their eyes and see, even though Wu Lingling had only graduated from junior high school. She wasn't as outstanding as her peers, but she was lucky. She met Lu Jing in junior high school and they got together. Now, Lu Jing treated her better and better and they were even married. Even if her peers were very outstanding, could they still become rich and powerful? What she didn't know was that the small company run by Father and Mother Tang grew bigger and bigger. By the time it was handed over to Tang Guo, it was already a medium-sized company. In less than a year after it fell into Tang Guo's hands, it had risen to the ranks of big companies. Even if it was not as big as the Lu Corporation, the Lu Corporation would not dare to suppress it. With Tang Guo and Xiao Ji behind the scenes, Family Tang's company was developing very steadily. Wu Lingling had just graduated from junior high school. She had no contact with the family, so she was ill-informed. How could she know about this? Even her peers who she thought were very outstanding but couldn't become rich and powerful had already exceeded her level of understanding. Some people were not from wealthy families, but they were able to gain the admiration and respect of those from wealthy families. Some people did not even dare to offend them. Everyone in the family was actually looking at Father and Mother Tang. When they heard that they were going to attend Wu Lingling's wedding, they also planned to go. On the day of Wu Lingling's wedding, the family Tang arrived at the venue together. Tang Guo stood in the crowd, holding Qiao Jiyi's hand. Seeing that Wu Lingling and Lu Jing's wedding was not as grand as she had imagined, she smiled. Peak. Chapter 1439. Young Master Lu's wedding seems to be different from what we expected. The family Tang's peers were also discussing in low voices. The Lu Corporation was indeed a wealthy family. They had attended the wedding of one of the young masters of the Lu Corporation before. It was a grand occasion with a fleet of luxury cars worth more than 5 million yuan. It was very impressive. Wu Lingling and Lu Jing's wedding decorations seemed to be slightly better than those of the wealthy families. In fact, Wu Lingling was the one who was astonished and even displeased. She had attended the wedding of the heir of the Lu family with Lu Jing. She had always hoped that she would have such a grand and shocking wedding. That was why she had sent invitations to the family Tangs and even to Tang Guo's, whom she had not been in contact with for many years. She wanted these people to see how well she, Wu Lingling, was living now. But the effect of the wedding was different from what she had imagined. Especially when the family Tang's members stood there, especially Tang Guo and Qiao Jiyi, they were more attractive than her and Lu Jing. She did not attend the wedding of Tang Guo and Lu Jing. She only heard that it was a grand occasion and was even on the news at that time. Because of this, she was very unhappy. The wedding guests were speechless as she kept a straight face throughout the wedding ceremony. Lu Jing's mother did not like Wu Lingling. If Lu Jing had not insisted on Wu Lingling, she would have objected to it. But if Lu Jing really liked her so much, how could she, as a mother, bear to cut off her son's love? So she tolerated Wu Lingling's marriage. But now that Wu Lingling was giving her attitude at the wedding, she was so angry that her face turned pale. As for Father Lu, he only came because of Lu Jing's mother. He had long given up on his son, Lu Jing. The wedding was not too shabby, nor was it grand. It was just average. There were many people who came, most of them because of the Lu Corporation. No matter what, Lu Jing was the son of Father Lu's most beloved woman. They had to give him face. No one expected that today's wedding would be such a big event. Even Tang Guo did not expect that some retribution would come so quickly. When the wedding ceremony was coming to an end, the MC started to play the highlights of Wu Lingling and Lu Jing's wedding. To put it simply, they were photos of their lives before they got married. In many weddings, in order to witness the growth of the couple's love, some photos of their daily lives would be shown. Everyone was curious as well. Wu Lingling was just a delinquent girl who hadn't even graduated from junior high school. How could she have the chance to marry Lu Jing? Even if Lu Jing's talent was mediocre and in everyone's eyes, he was still the young master of the Lu family and had an endless amount of money to spend. Everyone stared at the screen without blinking, especially the women who were present. Their faces were filled with interest. When the first photo was released, everyone was in an uproar. No one looked away as they stared intently at the screen. The photos were made into slides, appearing one by one and disappearing one by one. Wu Lingling and Lu Jing were facing the crowd. Seeing the shocked and incredulous looks on their faces, Wu Lingling thought that these people were surprised by the way she and Lu Jing usually interacted. Unknowingly, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. She even looked at Tang Guo with a smug look on her face. Until now, Wu Lingling still didn't know Qiao Jiyi's identity. She thought that Tang Guo had chosen to marry a school doctor after going to a famous university. She even laughed at her for a long time. Vertex. Chapter 1440. Even at Tang Guo's grand wedding, she had thought that the family Tang was the one who had paid for it. Therefore, when she saw Tang Guo's shocked expression, she felt even more smug. Dear host, Wu Lingling must not know what is on the screen, yet she is smiling at you so proudly. She will probably cry later. To be honest, When the system saw those photos, it was also shocked. It did not keep tabs on the young master of the Lu family. The task given to it by the host was to keep tabs on Wu Lingling and Lu Jing, mainly to prevent them from finding an opportunity to turn their lives around. After all, they were the male and female leads, even if their halo was gradually diminishing because of Tangguo's arrival. But no matter how good they were, they still had a halo and were much stronger than ordinary people. What were the male and female leads? As long as they were given the slightest chance, they could turn their lives around by chance. This was something that neither the system nor the host wanted to see. Tangguo also did not expect that the heir of the Lu family would be so ruthless. On the day of the wedding, he actually played the photos of Wu Lingling and the gangsters in the form of a slideshow. Moreover, it was not censored. The slideshow was played at a very fast speed and someone was controlling it. It was impossible to stop it immediately. When Lu Jing's mother saw it, she let out a scream and almost fainted from anger. Father Lu hurriedly held her up and did not have the time to stop the slideshow. Lu Jing and Wu Lingling did not have a good ranking in his eyes. The guests at the wedding were also shocked. When they came back to their senses, their eyes were wide open as they stared at the photos to identify them. Is that Wu Lingling? Heavens, it's actually Wu Lingling. Just how many hats does this Lu Jing wear? I counted. Among the men who have appeared so far, there are already 5 who have that kind of concern for Wu Lingling. I don't know if you have noticed, but Wu Lingling looked very young in the photos at the beginning. She seemed to be about 15 or 16 years old. So, she is not even an adult yet and she is already involved with these men. Don't forget that Wu Lingling is just a delinquent girl who has not even graduated from junior high school. What can happen if she hangs out with gangsters all day long? Moreover, I heard that she was also with Lu Jing when she was still an adult. Tell me, at such a young age, she did not study hard, skipped classes, and got into fights. How can she be a good girl? The guests began to whisper among themselves. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. Wu Lingling, who had been feeling smug and thought that everyone was envious of the love between her and Lu Jing, felt uneasy when she heard these words. She hurriedly turned around. She happened to see an extremely large photo of her and 3 men intertwined. Every part of her body was clearly displayed in the photo, and it was even enlarged. Every detail could be seen clearly. At that time, her vision went black, her face turned pale, and her lips lost their color. She felt dizzy and fell to the ground. Lu Jing, who had always been protecting her, did not notice that the woman he liked had fallen to the ground. The photo on the screen attracted all his attention. Even the discussions of the outside world could not wake him up. The woman in the photo was Wu Lingling. Other people could doubt the authenticity of the photos, but he was Wu Lingling's man. Of course, he could recognize it more clearly. The photos were taken when Wu Lingling was still a minor and then an adult. Vertex. Chapter 1441. Until the last photo, when he saw the necklace around Wu Lingling's neck, Lu Jing's eyes stung. Lu Jing gritted his teeth, pursed his lips and clenched his fists. Even though there were no more photos on the screen, his mind was still replaying the scene over and over again. In the last photo, the necklace around Wu Lingling's neck was a gift he had given her last week. So, this photo was taken within a week. From this, he could tell that all these years, Wu Lingling had enjoyed his love, spent his money and stayed at his place. But without his knowledge, she had been cuckolded one after another. He had held her in his hands and treated her like a jewel. But she had treated his feelings like trash and threw them away whenever she wanted. She had completely treated him like a fool. Lu Jing, listen to me. Wu Lingling had already regained her senses. Ignoring her sorry state and the mocking gazes around her, she hurriedly got up from the ground. She threw herself into Lu Jing's arms and hugged him tightly. She pleaded, Lu Jing, listen to me. This is not what you think. Then what is it? Lu Jing's voice was cold. The girl he felt was the warmest in this world was gone. The moment those photos appeared, all the hope in his life was gone. Lu Jing, they forced and threatened me. I didn't do it willingly. Wu Lingling's pale face was filled with tears. She was actually very beautiful. When she cried, people would want to take pity on her. If not for this incident, Lu Jing would definitely feel very sorry for her when he saw her like this. But now, he only felt disgusted. He pushed Wu Lingling away forcefully. Wu Lingling did not expect Lu Jing to use so much force to push her away. She was careless and fell to the ground. Her palms were sore from the abrasion. She could not care less. Lu Jing's indifference towards her made her panic. That kind of panic, as if the whole world was going to be destroyed. She could not lose Lu Jing. She could not lose Lu Jing. Lu Jing's kindness, indulgence, and love for her, as well as Lu Jing's money, were all things she could not lose. If she lost Lu Jing, what would she do in the future? Lingling, you don't have to explain. I saw it clearly just now. If you didn't consent to those scenes, would they have ended up like that? Everyone nodded in agreement. That's right. Wu Lingling actually dared to take such an explicit photo that would make one flustered. Judging from her body language and expression, she was not forced at all. She was willing. They weren't blind. They just felt that the life of a rich family was really messy. If it weren't for this sudden slide, Lu Jing probably wouldn't have known that Wu Lingling had cheated on him for so many years. Just when Wu Lingling wanted to say something, there was movement on the screen again. Brother Dao, I'm pregnant. Like I said before, can I wear a condom if I want to play? It was Wu Lingling's voice. I've already had an abortion once. Lu Jing and I have always taken safety precautions when we were together. Now that there's another one, it must be one of you. Everyone was in an uproar. This was really explosive. Then, a man's voice sounded, "Can you be happy and comfortable wearing that thing? Besides, didn't you not reject it before?" Vertex. Chapter 1442. Anyway, you've already had an abortion once. Lingling, it's not a big deal for you to have another one. Let Lu Jing accompany you. He'll take good care of you. Besides, he only feels that he was careless. Don't worry, I'll help you keep our relationship a secret. I won't tell Lu Jing. Lingling, didn't you say that Lu Jing treated you better because of guilt? Now that you had an abortion because of his carelessness, he'll treat you even better. This is also a chance for you. Ha ha ha. Brother Knife was silent for a while. Not long after, Wu Lingling spoke. All right then, but don't go too far in the future. Brother Knife, you have to promise that you won't let Lu Jing know about this. If you do that again in the future, I'll reject you. I still have to marry Lu Jing in the future. I heard that if you go too far in the abortion, you won't be able to have children in the future. All right, I'll listen to you. I'll ask my brothers to be more careful in the future. Everyone's expression was complicated as they listened to these unbearable words. They looked at Lu Jing with sympathy. This Wu Lingling was really daring. She had a child with another man and all of it fell on Lu Jing's head. Lu Jing didn't know that he had been cuckolded and even felt guilty for his carelessness, causing Wu Lingling to have an abortion. This woman was really ruthless. Wu Lingling was speechless. After this recording, even if she was uncultured and ignorant, she understood that she and Lu Jing would not be the same as before. No, it should be said that Lu Jing would not want her anymore. She looked around and saw the mocking gazes. The sky seemed to darken. Suddenly, her gaze fell on Tang Guo's position. At a glance, he saw that Tang Guo was still smiling. The string in her brain snapped. She didn't know where she got the strength from, but she got up from the ground and rushed in front of Tang Guo. Aren't you very happy, huh? Tang Guo, aren't you happy to see what happened to me today? Wu Lingling seemed to have gone crazy. She rushed to Tang Guo's position without a care for her life. She stretched her long nails towards Tang Guo's face. If it wasn't for you, would I be where I am today? It's all your fault, Tang Guo. It's all your fault, you hypocrite. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have suffered, and this wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have made a fool of myself in front of everyone today, and Lu Jing wouldn't have abandoned me. Seeing that Wu Lingling was about to slap Tang Guo's face, Qiao Ji protected Tang Guo and raised her leg to kick Wu Lingling. However, she was stopped by Tang Guo. The moment Wu Lingling rushed in front of her, she slapped her face with the back of her hand and threw her 3 meters away. Wu Lingling's face instantly swelled up. Lingling, I came to your wedding out of goodwill, but I didn't expect you to do something like that. Now you're blaming me? Aren't you being too unreasonable? Tang Guo, don't quibble. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, would I have ended up like this? Wu Lingling said fiercely. Yes, it's all your fault. You must be happy to see me like this, right? You must be happy, right? You said that I let you down and caused you to end up like this. Then tell me, how did I let you down? How did I cause you to end up like this? Wu Lingling was already blinded by anger and despair. She didn't even think and said directly, if you hadn't lost your phone back then, causing me to be unable to get through and unable to give Brother Dao money, would I have ended up like this? The moment she finished speaking, everyone looked guilty. This Wu Lingling was really too shameless. Boss Tang was an undeserved disaster. Fupin the Peak. Chapter 1443. Wu Lingling, didn't you think about it seriously when you said that? I have no obligation to help you. You are angry that I lost my phone, didn't receive your call, and didn't send you money. That's why you got the gangster's phone and are still entangled with them until now, right? Isn't that right? Wu Lingling said angrily, if you didn't lose your phone and sent the money to Brother Dao, how could I have ended up like that? So, Tang Guo, my current tragedy is caused by you. Facing Wu Lingling's shamelessness, the people present were refreshed. They had seen all kinds of shameless people, but they had never seen a completely shameless person like Wu Lingling. Wu Lingling, don't come out and make a fool of yourself. Calculating the time, Boss Tang is only 1 year older than you, right? At that time, you were in the 3rd year of junior high school and she was in the 1st year of senior high school. You didn't study well and fooled around outside all day long. You provoked the gangsters and were caught by them. You deserved it. You asked Boss Tang for help. Not to mention that Boss Tang lost her phone, even if she didn't lose it, she has no obligation to save you. If she really received your call, Boss Tang may be kind enough to inform your parents or call the police. Do you understand? Boss Tang is not your parents. She can't control you, nor is she responsible for you. Your life is complicated. Whether you live or die, it has nothing to do with her. You're really shameless. You actually put all the blame for your depraved life on Mr. Tang. I've really learned something new about such a shameless person. And, Wu Lingling, in those photos, I didn't see your unwillingness. What's more, Lu Jing has been kept in the dark by you. You even had 2 abortions for those gangsters. In the end, Lu Jing was the one who took the blame. This is simply a joke. The surrounding people's accusations made those who had some relationship with Wu Lingling lose face. Lu Jing's mother was so angry that she couldn't speak. Lu Jing's father was relatively calm, but he was also very angry. Because of Wu Lingling, the Lu family had lost face to this extent. Qin Ruolan and Wu Jun were Wu Lingling's biological parents. Just now, Qin Ruolan was showing off to the surrounding people that Wu Lingling was her daughter. She had cultivated Wu Lingling with great difficulty. Now, Wu Lingling finally had a good home. In short, his words were full of praise for Wu Lingling and showing off to others. Especially when the family Tang group came, she even specially said in front of them that no matter how much she studied, it was useless. She would still not be able to marry into a rich family. Look at how capable and discerning her Lingling was. She was able to pick the right one. Qin Ruolan was so proud of herself just now, but now she felt so embarrassed. Wu Lingling was just a junior high school graduate. How could she not know that? No, of course he did. If not for the fact that Wu Lingling had married into the Lu family, she would not have wanted to acknowledge this daughter of hers. All these years, she had been unable to raise her head. Now that Wu Lingling had married into a wealthy family, she could finally hold her head high and puff out her chest. Who would have thought that before he could vent his anger, he would embarrass himself in front of so many people? Those explicit photos seemed to have nailed her family to the pillar of shame. She was the one who suggested to invite the family Tang group. After today's incident, she could not hold her head high in front of anyone she knew, let alone in front of Mrs. Tang. Fupin Pinnacle. Chapter 1444. I don't care. Everything that happened to me today is Tangua's fault. She is such a hypocrite. She likes to pretend to be virtuous. What's so good about her? Isn't she just good in her studies and good looks? Wu Lingling seemed to have gone crazy. She would never admit that she was the one who caused everything today. She wasn't wrong. It was all Tangua's fault. If Tangua hadn't lost her phone, her life wouldn't have been like this. Tangua saw through Wu Lingling's thoughts. Wu Lingling was right. If she hadn't come and the original owner hadn't lost her phone, Wu Lingling's life wouldn't have been like this. But why did Wu Lingling's beautiful life have to be exchanged with the original owner, who was so outstanding and had such a bright future? She could also say that she didn't do anything. She just got rid of the root of the problem in time and threw away the original owner's phone. Wasn't everything that happened next caused by Wu Lingling herself? Although she gave him a slight push, her strength was really insignificant. If a person was unwilling to fall, her little bit of strength would only cause trouble for him at most. But Wu Lingling wasn't a determined person who only wanted to learn well. Everything she had ever received was nothing more than a halo that the world had bestowed upon her. When this halo faded, what was left of her? Wasn't she smart? Of course, she was smart. How could someone who learned everything quickly not be smart? But Wu Lingling had been with Lu Jing for so many years. Lu Jing gave her so much money every month. She could find something she was interested in to learn. Even if she didn't have a high education, a person who was willing to improve and not wait to be fed by others would definitely find a way to learn some skills. But Wu Lingling didn't. She chose to muddle through and cling to Lu Jing's thigh. Even Wu Lingling, who had a halo around her back then, was able to improve because firstly, Lu Jing had become outstanding. She was afraid of losing Lu Jing, so she learned from Lu Jing. Secondly, she knew what had happened to the original owner of this body. Of course, she felt uneasy, afraid that she would encounter the same thing. That was why she quickly left the circle of delinquents. My grades aren't just a little better. So many years have passed, and no one has broken my academic record. Tangua said unhurriedly. Even though Wu Lingling looked so miserable, she didn't think it was enough revenge at all. Wu Lingling was shameless, so she didn't care about the gazes around her. My face, as you said, is very beautiful. Tangua raised her chin confidently. She might not be the most beautiful woman in the world, but she was at least prettier than you, right? Of course, not only do I have excellent grades and a beautiful face, but I also have wealth that you will never be able to get in your lifetime, and a perfect man. Tangua pulled Qiao Ji out from behind her. The two of them looked very compatible when they stood together. So, Wu Lingling, please don't use your jealousy to accuse me of a groundless crime. No matter how bad your life is now, it's all because of you, step by step. It has nothing to do with me. Wu Lingling widened her eyes. Qin Ruolan couldn't hold it in any longer and slapped Wu Lingling's face. What a disgrace. Wasn't she ashamed? Looking at the eyes around her, she couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. She, Qin Ruolan, had worked hard for most of her life. How could she raise such a daughter? Fupin Vertex. Chapter 1445. What kind of perfect man is he? Isn't he just a school doctor who lives off a woman? Wu Lingling covered her face and said stubbornly, what kind of ability is a man who lives off a woman? Even if I'm not as good as you in every aspect, my ability to find a man is much better than yours. When the people present heard Wu Lingling's words, they looked at each other. What did Wu Lingling say? Her ability to find a man was much better than Boss Tang's. She probably didn't know that the man who gave up on the medical world stage and was willing to stand beside Boss Tang had achieved so much at such a young age. He had done so much for the medical world that many people at the top of the medical world would respectfully greet him as their teacher when they saw him. Previously, They thought that Wu Lingling was shameless. Now, they felt that she was stupid and ignorant. That's right. What else did a woman who was born as a delinquent know besides spending a man's money? They really didn't understand how Lu Jing fell in love with such a woman. Tang Guo, just as Wu Lingling was about to say something, Lu Jing had already regained his senses. He shouted, "Wu Lingling, that's enough. Don't you think it's embarrassing?" He didn't know Lu Jing in the past. After he returned to the Lu family and learned from Father Lu, he knew what kind of person Lu Jing was. Even Father Lu had to treat such a person with respect. He, Lu Jing, wasn't even qualified to carry his shoes. Lu Jing. Wu Lingling was stunned by Lu Jing's angry shout. Lu Jing, it's all Tang Guo's fault. She caused all of this. I didn't want this to happen. Lu Jing, believe me. I didn't want this to happen. I've suffered so much. Everything was caused by Tang Guo, that hypocritical woman who pretended to be a white lotus. If it wasn't for her, I would have lived a good life. Seeing that Wu Lingling still didn't regret her decision, Lu Jing felt a little tired. Many people asked him what was so good about Wu Lingling. He couldn't tell what was so good about Wu Lingling. He could only say that Wu Lingling had followed him since she was a teenager. He had to give her a future. In his heart, he liked Wu Lingling, but at the same time, he felt guilty. It was precisely because Wu Lingling felt guilty about having 2 abortions for him that he endured everything from Wu Lingling. Even if Wu Lingling's insensibility caused him to lose the opportunity to gain a foothold in the Lu group, he had never blamed her. Even if his mother showed disappointment or even disapproval, he would still insist on marrying Wu Lingling. Until now, he only felt that it was a joke. "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry." Lu Jing walked to Father Lu and Mother Lu and said solemnly, "Cancel the wedding." No, I won't allow it." "Lu Jing, how can you do this? How can you abandon me? You said that you want to marry me. How can you do this?" Wu Lingling's expression was ferocious. She did not care about her dirty wedding dress and ran to Lu Jing. She hugged him tightly and said, "I won't be calculative about Tang Guo's mistake. Lu Jing, let's get married. Let's not be calculative about anything else. Let's let bygones be bygones, okay?" "Not good." Lu Jing pushed Wu Lingling away and said, "Lingling, I have done enough for you and given up enough. So, please let me go." No matter how Wu Lingling shouted and screamed, Lu Jing had no intention of changing his mind. In the end, it was Father Lu who called for people to chase Wu Lingling out. Qin Ruolan and Wu Jun also followed the crowd and walked out with their hands covering their faces. They did not dare to show their faces in front of the family. Fupin Chinese The Summit. Chapter 1446. It was only after Wu Lingling was chased out that Father Lu apologized to the guests. He said that there was no way Wu Lingling would marry into the Lu family. Everyone understood that Lu Jing was completely done for. There was no hope for him at all after what had happened. As long as the heir was capable, the Lu family would accept him regardless of his dark history. But after the news of Lu Jing being fooled by Wu Lingling spread, there was no way the Lu family would accept him. Besides, they were very satisfied with the current heir. The one who had caused everything today was the heir of the Lu family. He stood beside Father Lu the entire time and did not criticize or comment on Lu Jing and Wu Lingling. He merely consoled Father Lu, poured water for him and asked if he was feeling unwell. Such a mature performance pleased everyone in the Lu family. They had to admit that with Lu Jing as a stepping stone, the heir had improved very quickly. He was no longer the young master of the Lu family who was proud of his achievements. The moment Tang Guo and Xiao Ji left, the heir's gaze landed on Tang Guo's face. Tang Guo turned back to look at him. Xiao Ji immediately realized that the two of them seemed to have reached some sort of agreement. Of course, he trusted Tang Guo. It was definitely not because he was emotionally involved with her. He had also discovered a secret today. Xiao Ji was smart and could keep her composure. It was only when they reached home that she hugged Tang Guo's waist and whispered, "Guo, I have a lot of questions. If I ask you, will you tell me?" "Ask away. I'll tell you." Qiao Ji did not have much hope at first. But when she heard Tang Guo's words, she was surprised. After all, the things he wanted to know were really her secrets. These secrets were not suitable for another person to know. Guo, you have to think carefully. This is your secret. Aren't you afraid that I'll find out? Will you tell others, Ji? No. I won't say it even if you beat me to death. If you're willing to tell me, I'll bury it in my heart. I won't even tell anyone when I'm in my coffin. That's it then. Besides, I'm not afraid of others finding out about these secrets. She did not care. Hence, she had nothing to fear. Qiao Ji could sense her fearlessness. She sighed and asked, "You lost that phone on purpose?" "Yes." "So." Qiao Ji had a scary guess in his heart. He felt that apart from this guess and combined with what happened today, this was the only possible explanation for Tang Guo's behavior. "So, did Guo know that Wu Lingling would call you that day? You knew what was going to happen. You even knew that this matter would implicate you and cause terrible consequences. That's why you chose to throw the phone away, right?" Qiao Ji had already roughly guessed that his Guo was an obedient student. Because of Wu Lingling's phone call, it was very likely that she was related to those hooligans. The hooligans were actually very interested in such obedient students. At that time, it would not be Wu Lingling who would suffer, but the baby in his arms. "Can you tell me what would have happened if you hadn't lost the phone?" Tang Guo raised her eyebrows and smiled faintly. Sure. She couldn't be bothered to tell Qiao Ji those stories. She took out a golden millet dream and fed it to Qiao Ji. After the dream, Qiao Ji hurriedly pulled her into his embrace. His body was trembling. He was unable to accept everything that had happened in the dream. In the dream, they did not meet. It did not take long for him to return to the hospital. In that world, he achieved the pinnacle of medicine. Vertex. Chapter 1447. Tang Guo nudged him. Ge, that's not me. Since she had already used a pipe dream, there was no need for her to pin the original owner's misfortune on her. I'm just an avenger, not her. I've already helped her finish the life she wanted. In this life, I'll be standing on a dazzling stage in her name, looking down on Wu Lingling forever. I've also helped her take revenge on those who harmed her. Tang Guo wrapped her arms around Qiao Ji's neck and kissed him on the lips. Once this is over, the rest will be our lives. System, the host has always been a principled person. Even if she's in a relationship, she won't forget about revenge. Qiao Ji calmed down and deepened the kiss. Guo, I'm glad you're here. Otherwise, I'll be alone for the rest of my life. System, this guy really washed himself clean. To think that he actually found such a clean identity. If they really met in the future, would he be able to copy the other party's incantation? It seemed to be very powerful. If he had a grudge with the host, he would snatch it over. If he didn't, why would he need to snatch it? Guo, what's going on between you and the successor of the Lu family? Tang Guo couldn't help but smile when she heard the jealousy in his words. I have some business dealings with him. We've also cooperated on some other matters. I've also reached a condition with him. What condition? I can cooperate with him. But after he inherits the Lu family, he can't give Lu Jing a chance to make a comeback. To her, Lu Jing was the one who wanted to kill her. How could she allow Lu Jing to live comfortably? If she wanted to kill Lu Jing, it was easy. There were many ways to do it without anyone knowing. But killing Lu Jing wasn't enough to vent her anger. Lu Jing had killed the original owner because of Wu Lingling. Did Wu Lingling really not know? As the person who shared the same bed, she didn't believe that Wu Lingling didn't ask Lu Jing after the original owner died. Given how much Lu Jing liked Wu Lingling, he would definitely reveal some clues. But Wu Lingling chose to pretend that she didn't know. If she killed Lu Jing, the other party might be freed because of Wu Lingling's matter. Lu Jing had to live. With Wu Lingling around, he wouldn't be able to live in peace for the rest of his life. Also, I told him that Boss Dao and his group have some grudges with me. Tang Guo smiled. He's a tactful person. He quickly gave up on that group of people and said that he wouldn't interfere. It's also because those people were too greedy and made him sick of it. It just so happens that we're working together and each of us has our own goals. Qiao Ji didn't expect Tang Guo to be so honest. She was truly fearless. His wife's background was very mysterious. Fortunately, I'm wholeheartedly pursuing Guo Guo. Otherwise, with how powerful you are, I don't know if you'll be moved in the future. System. Don't worry, other than you, there isn't anyone else who can move the host's heart. As long as you're obedient and don't do anything to betray or harm the host, you'll have a good life until the host recovers most of her memories. I want to do something, Gege. I'll accompany you. When Tang Guo changed into the tattered leather clothes and put on the mask, Qiao Ji hurriedly hugged her. It's you. En. Qiao Ji's smile widened. She hugged her waist and kissed her head through the mask. So, that female cat burglar is you. Guo Guo, I found out your secret again. Gege, I did it on purpose. Peek. Chapter 1448. Tang Guo gave Qiao Ji a set of weird clothes as well, which Qiao Ji put on without a second thought. He was curious as to where Tang Guo was bringing him. As long as it was a place that Guo Guo was willing to go, he would even jump off a building. He believed that even if he had to jump off from a high building, she would ensure his safety. That was how confident he was. No matter how extreme his Guo Guo's personality was, he had not done anything wrong. She would definitely not go crazy and send him to his death. Late at night, Tang Guo brought Qiao Ji to a place that was more chaotic. It should be considered as an underground trading place where all sorts of people could be found and anything could happen. Brother Knife's boss was the boss of this place. The system had already helped her check that this place was not open for business today. It was the time for these hooligans to gather for a meeting. They did many shady things in the dark and had connections with many people on the surface. Brother Knife's boss was not referring to the successor of the Lu family. Rather, he was just doing things for money. As long as he was paid enough, he would get things done properly. At the same time, he was also doing something else in the dark. That was to send innocent female students to certain people with special interests. Of course, after Tang Guo came, he could no longer find any innocent female students for this business of his. Tang Guo thought about what had happened to the original owner of this body. She would not allow such things to happen under her nose again. This was also a hidden desire of the original owner of this body. However, Brother Knife could not give up on this chain of benefits. Therefore, he found many girls who were willing to give up on themselves and dress up as innocent female students to do such things. Tang Guo would not care about such people at all. However, it was time for Brother Knife's boss and the others to step down from this dirty and dark stage. It was time to expose them. Of course, before that, she had to do something special. Initially, Qiao Ji did not know what Tang Guo was going to do. When she rushed into the place and asked him to guard the door and not let anyone out, he was still worried. When he saw her jumping into the crowd and the other party not being able to hurt her at all, he was relieved. He could not help but wonder what sort of a godly wife he had married. It was really worth it for him to give up on the medical stage. Hearing the countless screams, Qiao Ji was stunned for a moment. He watched as his godlike wife took out a sharp knife and chopped down on the hoodlums. Following that, the hoodlums screamed and covered that place. They screamed and fainted from the pain. The place where he was chopped had no power to resist at all. In less than half an hour, all the gangsters were castrated by Tang Guo. As for Big Brother Knife's boss, she first slapped him twice on the face before using the knife to slowly land on the ground. Under his incomparably horrified expression, she slowly castrated him. In order to prevent him from fainting from the pain, she even gave him an injection. This was an interstellar medicine. It could allow this oily and disgusting man to maintain his consciousness for 3 days. He wouldn't faint from the pain and wouldn't die from it. Qiao Ji couldn't see Tang Guo's expression, but she could feel that she was very happy. When she threw out a huge stack of documents from her backpack, he hurried over. These The proof that they should be castrated, as well as the bad things they have done all these years, are all recorded here. How can you just cut off their manhood? If they should go to jail, they still have to go to jail. The hoodlums who were in pain, you're really amazing. Peak. Chapter 1449. Don't worry, you won't die. Tangua looked at the gangsters who were curled up on the floor, holding their crotches in pain. Their faces were pale. It'll be too easy for you if you die. Brother Knife was among them. It wasn't that they didn't want to fight back, but no one could resist this mysterious woman. Who are you? Brother Knife's boss, the greaser-looking man, asked as he stared at Tangua viciously while enduring the pain. It looked like he was planning to take revenge in the future. Tangua didn't tell him who she was, nor did she take off her mask. Only a fool would leave something for the other party to use against her. I am the messenger of revenge from hell. Brother Knife's boss wasn't satisfied when he didn't get the answer he wanted. But as long as he lived in this world, he would find this despicable woman no matter the cost. No matter if she was a god or a Buddha, he would kill her. It wasn't until half an hour later when the police surrounded the place and took everyone away that he realized that something was wrong. He thought that he had a lot of information that could be used against those who had done a lot of dirty things in the dark. The other party would definitely think of ways to save him so that he wouldn't be in trouble. However, he didn't get any of that. Instead, he met these people at the police station. When he saw these people being arrested, 2 words flashed in his mind: it's over. A huge prostitution and crime case had been solved in the city, and it involved a lot of people. But the evidence that Tangua asked the system to collect was too much. The sudden evidence caught these people off guard and they were all arrested. When this incident was reported, Tangua and Xiao Ji, who were sitting on the sofa in the living room, saw it too. Tangua didn't care about what happened next. She did what she wanted to do. With the evidence, no one could escape punishment. As for how those gangsters became eunuchs, many people thought that they had done a lot of bad things and someone wanted to take revenge. As for the person who took revenge, there was no way to investigate. Compared to what they had done, this was insignificant. Many places were talking about this incident, even Tangua's company. The people who discussed it never suspected Tangua. That was because she had always been glamorous since she was young. She always stood in the brightest and most dazzling position. Wu Lingling couldn't help laughing out loud when she heard that those gangsters had been arrested. However, after laughing, she felt that the whole world was dark. Lu Jing didn't want her anymore. No matter how much she cried, how much she begged, how pitiful she was, Lu Jing refused to see her. Those hooligans had been arrested, and she had no way to rely on them. In the end, she chose to go home. You Jinx, why did you come back? Do you think we haven't lost enough face? Wu Lingling knocked at the door of her house. Wu Jun happened to be drunk. Seeing Wu Lingling, he got angry and slapped on her face. Get out. I don't have such a shameful daughter like you. Wu Lingling glares at Wu Jun with hatred. With a bang, Wu Jun closes the door. Wu Lingling waited at the door. When Qin Ruolan returned, she called out, Mom. Why did you come back? Qin Ruolan looked around subconsciously, as if to see if there was anyone around. She was afraid that someone would find that Wu Lingling was back. At the top. Chapter 1450. Qin Ruolan hurriedly waved her hand at Wu Lingling. Aren't you embarrassed? Hurry up and leave. If someone sees you, I don't know what nasty things they will say. Mom, I have nowhere else to go. You wretched girl. You only thought of coming home when you have nowhere else to go. Qin Ruolan regretted giving birth to such a daughter. Wu Lingling looked at Qin Ruolan and said coldly, Mom, I've been giving you a lot of money over the years. It adds up to a few 100,000 yuan. It's not too much for me to stay at home for a while, right? You still have the cheek to say that. I gave birth to you and raised you. Isn't it only right for me to give you some money? Qin Ruolan said angrily. Who knew that you would do such an embarrassing thing? You could have married into the Liu family and become a rich wife, but you just had to get involved with those hooligans. I said so much back then. When did you listen to me? Go, 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 don't come back. I can't afford to lose face like this. You're no longer my daughter in the future. Qin Ruolan didn't want to care about Wu Lingling anymore. Back then, she had even invited some of her closer colleagues and neighbors to show off. Who didn't know that Wu Lingling had taken those shameless and revealing photos now? Qin Ruolan thought of those mocking gazes and transferred all her anger onto Wu Lingling. She couldn't care less about Wu Lingling's life now. Wu Lingling had left home at such a young age and was still alive. She had already done her duty by giving birth to her and raising her until she was so old. It was Wu Lingling who didn't learn well, and now she had embarrassed her parents. Therefore, she couldn't possibly let Wu Lingling stay at home. She wouldn't starve to death outside anyway. Hadn't she lived like this all these years? The only thing that Qin Ruolan couldn't accept was Lu Jing's status as the young master of the Lu family. How good would it be if Wu Lingling really married into a rich family? Qin Ruolan closed the door coldly. Wu Lingling stood outside for a while. Some people had already heard the commotion and saw Wu Lingling whispering to each other. Their mocking and disdainful looks made Wu Lingling's face burn. But she felt that these people couldn't differentiate between right and wrong and were especially detestable. So she shouted, "What are you looking at?" Those people knew that Wu Lingling was a hooligan and they were afraid of revenge, so they quickly turned and left. Only then did Wu Lingling take a deep breath, turn around and leave. Even in this situation, Wu Lingling, who was still extremely arrogant, had never thought of asking her relatives for help. In her opinion, those relatives would only mock and humiliate her and would not help her at all. Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang also saw all of this, but they did nothing and chose to ignore it. They felt that being able to ignore and do nothing was already the greatest benevolence they could show. No matter if it was the Wu Lingling in the Golden Millet Dream, or the current Wu Lingling, they all hated her. Wu Lingling, who was here, was constantly thinking of putting the blame on their daughter and generating countless malice. In the end, Wu Lingling chose to ask for help from a few of her close friends. There were a total of 4 people, and all 4 of them were married. 3 of them said that they couldn't take her in. They even said that they were having a hard time and chose to give her 200 yuan in red packets. 200 yuan per person, 600 yuan in total. The 4th girl transferred 5,000 yuan to Wu Lingling. At the same time, she said that her life was ordinary and she had a family, so she couldn't help much. At the same time, she was also advising Wu Lingling to find a job that provided food and accommodation. Vertex. Chapter 1451. That friend told Wu Lingling that if she worked harder, she wouldn't starve to death in today's society. She had to first find a place to live and settle down before thinking about the future. She was only in her 20s and was still young. Her future was still unknown and anything was possible. Actually, she had complained about Wu Lingling in her heart, but Wu Lingling had indeed given her a lot of benefits. She gave her $5,000 to persuade her and point her in the right direction. Everything was settled then. Now, she had a husband and a son. Although she wasn't considered rich, she regretted her ridiculous life. Wu Lingling was responsible, but the biggest responsibility was herself. She was insensible, weak, and lost, which led to this outcome. Regardless of whether Wu Lingling listened or not, she hung up the phone as soon as she finished speaking. It was a farewell to her past. Her current husband knew about her past and chose to forgive her. He said that as long as she was willing to lead a good life, they would continue. She couldn't lose this hard-won happiness because of Wu Lingling. Wu Lingling looked at the $5,000 on her phone and heard the other party's words. She said angrily, all ingrates, all ingrates. When I was rich, all of you came to my side. Now that I'm down and out, all of you are hiding far away. None of you are sincere. Just you wait. When I, Wu Lingling, rise up, don't regret it. One day, Tang Guo was in the office, moving the mouse and buying things. Qiao Ji was sitting at the side, handling the company's documents. Occasionally, Tang Guo would get up and make some coffee and food for him. In order to not let Qiao Ji get hungry, she even moved the oven to a cubicle in the office. When she was free, she would go in and make some food. Qiao Ji felt that although he was busy, he was surrounded by happiness every day. There was coffee made by his wife, biscuits baked by him, and fruit that his wife fed him personally. These days were really blissful. The system suddenly reminded Tang Guo. Host, Wu Lingling chose to be a hostess. Because she is pretty, she went to a high-end place to hook up with a good man. I heard her say in the washroom that she wanted to make Lu Jing regret. Oh. Tang Guo replied and didn't care about it anymore. The system knew that if Wu Lingling wasn't in a good mood, its host would definitely be in a good mood. Another day, the system said, Host, Wu Lingling successfully became a boss's woman. She is now in the shopping mall where you are. If you walk straight, you should meet her. Tang Guo was holding Qiao Ji's hand, planning to go to the mall to help him choose clothes. She didn't expect to meet Wu Lingling here. Before she could move, Wu Lingling was already in front of her. Wu Lingling's clothes were more enchanting and revealing. A fat man was holding her slender waist. When she was 3 meters away from Tang Guo, she saw Tang Guo. Tang Guo didn't move either. The two of them looked at each other. Wu Lingling, who is wearing heavy makeup and revealing clothes, looks at Tang Guo, who is as pure and white as before. Her face suddenly changes color. She said sweetly to the man beside her, Brother Chen, let's go over there and take a look, okay? She didn't want to see Tang Guo. Unless one day, she could surpass Tang Guo. That boss had already noticed Tang Guo and a smile appeared on his face. Peek. Chapter 1452. Why are you leaving? I saw Boss Tang and Secretary Qiao. Of course, I have to say hello before leaving. Boss Chen ignored Wu Lingling and walked up to Tang Guo with a smile, intending to shake hands with her. Tang Guo smiled. Qiao Ji reached out and shook hands with Boss Chen. Boss Chen did not think much of it. He had heard that Secretary Qiao was very nervous about President Qiao. It was normal for her to behave like this. Moreover, Secretary Qiao was not just Secretary Qiao. He felt honored to be able to shake hands with her. Boss Chen, are you so free? Qiao Ji asked. She did not care about Wu Lingling, who was standing aside and unwilling to come up. Boss Chen was a little unhappy. He frowned and turned to stare at her. Why are you still standing there? Come up and say hello to Boss Tang and Secretary Qiao. How could Wu Lingling go up? With her arrogant personality, she would never bow down in front of Tang Guo. Even if Tang Guo did not say anything, she would not deliberately suppress her. She was still the inferior and arrogant Wu Lingling. She would never be willing to accept what she thought was humiliation. As long as she did not surpass Tang Guo, she would feel humiliated standing in front of her. Therefore, she did one thing. She took her bag on the spot and walked away without caring about Boss Chen. Now that she was young and had the capital, there were many people who flattered her. Even if there were many bad rumors about her, those men who only wanted to play liked someone like her who was open-minded. They did not mind at all. After all, they did not need to marry her. I'm really sorry, Boss Tang, Secretary Qiao. Boss Chen was a little embarrassed. I didn't expect you to be such a disobedient thing. Tang Guo and Qiao Ji naturally didn't mind. After greeting him, the two of them continued shopping. Boss Chen was embarrassed by a woman like Wu Lingling. Of course, he was unhappy. Therefore, he announced that he would not flatter Wu Lingling that day. He chose an obedient girl to flatter. Wu Lingling was domineering and arrogant. At first, many people wanted to flatter her because she was indeed very beautiful. But these people who spent money were bosses. It was fine if she was willful once or twice, but if it happened a few more times, they would lose patience. Therefore, within a year, those rich people stopped looking for Wu Lingling. Wu Lingling had always been a spendthrift. She had never been poor before. Only when the money was spent and the credit card was maxed out did the crisis occur. As the saying goes, once you enter this line of work, it's not easy to get out. You'll only sink deeper and deeper. Wu Lingling, who was at the end of her rope, changed from a drinking girl to a sleeping girl. As long as there was enough money, she was willing to do anything. She felt that since she had slept with many men before, it would be too easy to earn a lot of money just by sleeping with them. When Tanguo heard that, she didn't care. For the rest of the time, other than developing the company and being lovey-dovey with her man, she worked hard to improve herself in this world, to make herself look better and better, to become more and more glamorous. She had said before that in this life, she would live a glorious life, stand in the most dazzling position, and be the center of attention of countless people. She was able to achieve the dream that the original owner couldn't achieve, and she was very happy doing it. He hoped that these admiring and envious gazes would be able to wash away the filth on the original owner's soul. For several years, she didn't pay any attention to Wu Lingling. The system was tactful and didn't say anything. Anyway, as long as Wu Lingling didn't have a chance to make a comeback, the host wouldn't care. The next time she heard about Wu Lingling was when she was arrested for murder. The Peak. Chapter 1453. She killed someone? Tanguo asked in astonishment. Who did she kill? System. It was Lu Jing. What happened? Lu Jing knew about the things that Wu Lingling did. After hearing about Wu Lingling's past, he finally gave up. He decided to let go of Wu Lingling. Moreover, Lu Jing's mother's health was really bad. She passed away a few months ago. Before she passed away, she hoped that Lu Jing would forget Wu Lingling and marry a virtuous wife. She didn't want him to be successful, but she wanted him to live a peaceful and happy life. Lu Jing agreed. Yes, of course he agreed to his mother's last words. On account of Lu Jing's mother, Father Lu found him an ordinary and virtuous girl. Not long after, the two got engaged. Wu Lingling heard about Lu Jing's engagement from one of her customers. She even found out about the wedding date. At this point, the system coughed lightly. Actually, the reason why the customer told Wu Lingling about it was because the heir of the Lu family benefited. Not only did the host want Lu Jing to have a hard time, the heir didn't want Lu Jing to have a good life either. Even though Lu Jing was in a disadvantageous position and had a very ordinary position, he still did his job better than many people. He was afraid that Lu Jing would turn around and find out about Wu Lingling's current situation. He was afraid that Lu Jing would find someone to tell Lu Jing about the marriage. And then, Tanguo only had business dealings with the heir of the Lu family. They basically didn't communicate at all. However, the other party's methods were getting more and more ruthless. On the day of the wedding, Wu Lingling brought a knife into the venue. Who would have thought that she would stab Lu Jing in the heart in front of everyone, causing him to die on the spot? The system said weakly. She even told Lu Jing that she could accept that he didn't want her, but she couldn't accept him marrying someone else. If that was really the case, she would stab him to death. That way, no one would be able to have him. Perhaps, this could be considered true love. So, my enemies all got what they deserved. System, after talking for so long, this is the conclusion that the stupid host came to. Thinking about everything in this world, it was really terrifying. The host only changed one aspect, and the male and female leads' halos were lost. Yet, things had developed to this point. In fact, it was normal when he thought about it. It would be very difficult for ordinary people to turn things around in Wu Lingling's position. Without the help of luck, the male and female leads were also ordinary people. They couldn't compare to the supporting characters who were more outstanding than them. Qin Ruolan and Wu Jun knew about this. When they were questioned by the police, they directly said that they had broken off their relationship with Wu Lingling. Whatever she did had nothing to do with them. They didn't recognize this daughter. In their hearts, they only blamed Wu Lingling for losing face. They were not worried about Wu Lingling's life at all. Wu Lingling was not sentenced to death. Instead, she was sentenced to life imprisonment. Perhaps the Lu family did not want her to die too easily. No matter how much Father Lu disliked Lu Jing, the woman he loved the most was dead and Lu Jing was killed by Wu Lingling. Because of this woman, he had lost face twice. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get over it. When Wu Lingling was sentenced to life imprisonment, her body quivered and her mind went blank. She looked at her surroundings and felt very lost. When she recalled everything, she shouted, "No, it's not like that. Vertex." Chapter 1454. No, it's not like that. Wu Lingling hugged her head and screamed. Her eyes were filled with fear and she was about to break down. It wasn't like that. None of this was like that. However, no one cared about her, thinking that she was unable to accept this outcome. However, everyone was curious as well. Wu Lingling had looked as though she did not care about life or death earlier on. Why did her eyes suddenly change? It was as though she had been wronged. This woman's mind changed really quickly. Thinking about how Wu Lingling could stab the person she liked to death, they did not find it strange anymore. Wu Lingling wanted to struggle, but she could not. She shouted, "It's not like that. I didn't." The scene of her stabbing Lu Jing to death popped up in her mind and her voice stopped. She could not shout out that she did not kill anyone. She did not kill anyone. In her mind, she could never forget the scene of her stabbing Lu Jing to death. No, this was not her. Why would she stab Lu Jing to death? And everything here was different from what she had experienced. Her life should not be like this. Her life should be dazzling and glorious. Her Lu Jing was the heir of the Lu family, a figure that countless men looked up to and countless women wanted to marry. And she, Wu Lingling, was an all-rounder. She should have undergone an earth-shattering change in high school. She had become prettier and her grades had improved. From a disliked delinquent girl, she had become an outstanding student that everyone adored. But why was her memory different? Wu Lingling squatted in the prison and thought for a long time before she finally understood. She opened her eyes and looked at the light shining in from outside. She whispered, "It's her." Who was it? Naturally, it was Tang Guo. Everything started from Tang Guo. In this world, Tang Guo did not pick up her calls and naturally, she was not implicated by the hooligans. On the other hand, she was the one who did not satisfy the hooligans and was forced to entangle with them. She even took photos of them and caused this tragedy. Tang Guo was reborn. Yes, she must have been reborn. Wu Lingling's gaze turned malevolent as she bit down on her lips. Why was Tang Guo able to be reborn in the original world while she could only be reborn in this world? Why did Tang Guo choose to stand by and watch when she clearly knew that those hooligans were not human? Sure enough, Tang Guo was a hypocrite. She deserved to end up like that in her previous life. In her past life, she really shouldn't have been so nice to Father Tang and Mother Tang. Tang Guo was an ingrate. "Host, are you happy?" The system giggled as it asked. Who would have thought that this world would be so interesting to allow Wu Lingling to be reborn at this time? Haha. Regardless of whether the host was happy or not, he was quite happy. Tang Guo looked at Wu Lingling's ferocious face. The hatred in her eyes was no less than that of the previous Wu Lingling who had no memory. "I'm happy." He was very happy. Later, Wu Lingling even requested to see Tang Guo. Tang Guo walked over. The two of them looked at each other. Wu Lingling suddenly asked crazily, "It's you, isn't it? You did it on purpose, didn't you?" The pure smile on Tang Guo's face suddenly turned evil. Her voice was like a curse as it traveled into Wu Lingling's ears. "Yes, I did it on purpose. What can you do about it? Take it, Wu Lingling." With the system's shielding, Tang Guo's words were not monitored at all. She left happily, not caring about Wu Lingling, who was screaming and baring her fangs. "Why are you so happy?" Outside the prison, Qiao Ji was already mesmerized by the evil smile on Tang Guo's face. He held her hand tightly. Tang Guo tiptoed and whispered in his ear, "This Wu Lingling is that Wu Lingling." Qiao Ji was stunned for a moment before he laughed. No wonder she was so happy. "Guo Guo, I'll be good in my next life too. You'll definitely find me, right?" "Yes." Peek. Chapter 1455. Your Highness, look, the one reading poetry over there is this year's new top scholar. Tang Guo was currently sitting in the sedan chair. The curtain of the sedan chair was lifted by her personal palace maid, allowing her to clearly see the handsome man who was being embraced by people outside. This new top scholar not only has good drawing skills, but he also knows how to compose poems. In this imperial city, many scholars have come here because of his reputation. They all want to see this new scholar. Her personal palace maid, Huan Zhu, whispered into Tang Guo's ear. Your Highness, what do you think of him? Tang Guo glanced outside again. That new top scholar was indeed not bad looking. Listening to the other party's voice, he seemed to have some knowledge. To be able to become the top scholar, under normal circumstances, it was impossible for him to be mediocre. He definitely had some ability. Other than her sedan chair that was parked here, there were many noble young ladies and talented girls in the imperial city that came to see this new top scholar. Bei Xia had an open culture, and there was no custom that women could not show their faces. It was only because her identity was the princess of Bei Xia that she had to be more reserved. No matter how much attention the new top scholar attracted, she could not lose her status and directly get off the sedan chair to meet him. Huan Zhu did not know that the person in the sedan chair had already changed. She was still tirelessly talking about the new top scholar, Lu Qing. Her eyes were also shining. If she was not beside Tang Guo, she would have already rushed over and shouted at Lu Qing like the other girls to express her love. Your Highness, do you think this Lu Qing top scholar is good to be the prince consort? Huan Zhu used the best words she could think of to praise Lu Qing. After that, she finally remembered the purpose of this trip. The new top scholar was definitely talented and good-looking. The most honorable princess of Bei Xia had also reached the age of marriage. Tang Guo's purpose of this trip was naturally to see how this top scholar was. If she took a fancy to him, she would ask if he was willing to marry. If he was not, she could recruit him as the prince consort. Huan Zhu felt that Lu Qing was not bad. However, she couldn't figure out Tang Guo's thoughts. In fact, she couldn't wait for Tang Guo to agree immediately. She was the personal palace maid of the princess. In the future, she would definitely be in charge of the trial marriage. Tang Guo saw through Huan Zhu's thoughts, and her lips curved into a smile. For the man she fancied, don't even think about using a personal palace maid to test the marriage. If he dared to test the marriage, she would break his legs. Let's wait and see. Listening to Tang Guo's indifferent voice, Huan Zhu's enthusiasm dissipated a little. From the looks of it, Her Royal Highness was not very satisfied with the Crown Prince. Huan Zhu was a little disappointed, but he did not dare to say more. Tang Guo put down a corner of the curtain and inadvertently glanced at it. She found that Lu Qing was looking in her direction. He seemed to be disappointed that she had put down the curtain. Then, in the sedan chair, she heard Lu Qing's voice reciting the poem even louder. Host, the other party is attracting your attention. Let's receive the memory first. I don't think he is a good person. Let's see what unhappy things happened between the original owner and him. If there is any hatred, we can talk about it later. The system quieted down. When Tang Guo was receiving the memory, she directly blocked out Lu Qing's voice. He looked at that Lu Qing and also felt that he was not a good person. In 15 minutes, Tang Guo finished reading all the memories. She gently lifted a corner of the curtain. Lu Qing seemed to have noticed it. He quickly straightened his body and recited a love poem, causing the surrounding women to scream. Chapter 1456. The male lead of this world was called Lu Qing. He was the new top scholar who was reciting a love poem to attract Tang Guo's attention. The host was the daughter of the Empress of Bei Xia, the younger sister of the Crown Prince, and a noble princess. Bei Xia was prosperous and had a strong military force. There was no need for the princess to sacrifice herself for marriage. Therefore, she should be a princess who was born in a lucky era. From a young age, she could live a luxurious life and find a good son-in-law. As long as she didn't make any big mistakes, she could live a life of luxury. The tragedy of the host was due to the choice of son-in-law. When she was at the age of marriage, Lu Qing appeared at the right time as the new top scholar. He was talented and had a dignified appearance. Even the high and mighty princess couldn't help but be moved by such a perfect man. Today, she sat in the sedan and saw Lu Qing standing in the crowd from afar. He was so outstanding that the surrounding men couldn't compare to him. With just one glance, the host fell in love with Lu Qing. Then, the two of them exchanged poems and paintings. At first, they didn't meet. The host didn't know that Lu Qing was deliberately attracting her attention. In the letter, Lu Qing showed a modest gentleman's attitude and talent, which fascinated the host. She felt that Lu Qing was the most suitable son-in-law for her. Therefore, she told the empress, who was her mother, about this matter. She said that she liked the new top scholar, Lu Qing. The empress was also satisfied with Lu Qing. She sent someone to ask if Lu Qing was married. Lu Qing said frankly, "I studied hard and wanted to pass the imperial exam. I haven't married yet." In fact, Lu Qing was already married. His child was already a few years old. But because he wanted to pass the imperial exam and was afraid that the journey would be long, he wouldn't be acclimatized to the capital and other problems. In the capital, the Lu family had a distant relative who personally saw Lu Qing's talent. He said that he was willing to give up a good house for Lu Qing to live in. He was willing to sponsor him until he obtained scholarly honors. In fact, such incidents were not rare. For the sake of his future and his reputation, Lu Qing had always claimed that he was unmarried. In fact, the reason why he got married was because his family was too poor and could no longer afford the money for him to continue his studies. In addition, he had some talent. Before his parents passed away, they were worried about him and arranged a marriage for him. The main character of this marriage was the female lead of this world, Lin Yuexiang. Lin Yuexiang's family ran a small business and had some savings. Because of Lu Qing's talent, they felt that the two of them were a good match. In the beginning, the two of them were very loving. Later, Lu Qing felt that Lin Yuexiang was just a vulgar country girl who was illiterate. On the surface, she didn't say anything, but in reality, she was very impatient with Lin Yuexiang. Lin Yuexiang only felt that Lu Qing was a scholar, so he should have some arrogance. So, she calmly took care of the family. She also thought that Lu Qing was talented and would definitely be able to pass the imperial exam in the future. So, she gave all the good food at home to Lu Qing. Until Lu Qing felt that he was afraid that the imperial exam in a few years would affect his performance. In addition, there was news of a distant relative in the capital. Lin Yuexiang, of course, supported him. She sold everything that could be sold at home and even went to her maternal family to get some money. She was afraid that she would mistreat Lu Qing. Just like that, Lu Qing sought refuge with a relative in the imperial city. This distant relative also didn't know about his marriage. The peak. Chapter 1457. She thought that he had been too busy studying to care about these things. Therefore, when the empress sent someone to investigate, she found that Lu Qing was not married, so she asked the emperor to take Lu Qing as the emperor's son-in-law. Of course, Lu Qing was very happy to marry the princess. But he was still very worried. His first wife, Lin Yuexiang, was always a thorn in his heart. Once this matter was exposed, he would be guilty of deceiving the emperor and would be beheaded. Lu Qing did not want everything to turn to dust after he had worked so hard to get to where he was now. Therefore, after he got married, he sent his confidants to spy on Lin Yuexiang. Once Lin Yuexiang wanted to enter the imperial city to look for him, he would let these people stop her. He hid these things from the original host. Huan Zhu happened to be the personal palace maid who helped them to try out the marriage. She could be considered as Lu Qing's half-woman. In order not to arouse the original host's suspicion, he secretly subdued Huan Zhu and made her one of his own people. Huan Zhu was very infatuated with Lu Qing. Almost everything she did was for Lu Qing. Many times, when the original host was a little suspicious, she would be dispelled by Huan Zhu's words. Huanzhu was the personal palace maid chosen by the empress for her. She grew up with her, so the original host's guard was the lowest. It happened 10 years after the original host and Lu Qing got married. During this period, Lin Yuexiang wanted to come to the capital many times to find Lu Qing. But because of Lu Qing's various obstructions, she did not succeed. Until Lin Yuexiang's father went to a faraway place and heard some things. Among these things, there was the matter of Lu Qing becoming the emperor's son-in-law. Lin Yuexiang was very anxious. She was very disappointed with Lu Qing and had some hatred. No matter what, she had to ask Lu Qing what was going on. Moreover, seeing was believing. Only by seeing with one's own eyes could one know the truth. What if Lu Qing didn't do it willingly and the emperor personally gave the order to force him to become the emperor's son-in-law? Such thoughts were actually very normal in the hearts of these commoners. The Lin Yuexiang's family members advised her to let it go, but she was stubborn and refused to let it go. She insisted on finding Lu Qing to clarify things. One day, she brought her son and daughter, LV Yufan and LV Yuji. They secretly avoided people and rushed towards the imperial city. However, halfway through, their whereabouts were still discovered. Lu Qing panicked when he found out. He was unwilling to give up his current glory and wealth. Once Lin Yuexiang came to the imperial city to make trouble, not only would he lose his reputation, he might even lose his head. Therefore, he felt that this trouble must be eliminated. Therefore, he went all the way and sent assassins to kill Lin Yuexiang and her children. During the escape, Lin Yuexiang died in order to protect her son and daughter. Before she died, she asked her 2 children to find their father and clarify things. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to die in peace. Later, the 2 siblings were separated during the escape. LV Yufan became the page boy of a rich young master. Because of his intelligence and wisdom, the young master liked him very much. He gave him the opportunity to study and consider becoming an official. As a girl, LV Yuji suffered and was reduced to a prostitute. Even so, she didn't forget to go to the imperial city to find her father, Lu Qing, and clarify things. A few years later, LV Yufan became the top scholar and LV Yuji became the most beautiful girl in the imperial city. On the day of the top scholar, LV Yufan sued Lu Qing, saying that he abandoned his wife and even tried to kill her. The peak. Chapter 1458. In order to climb up the social ladder, Lu Qing killed his wife and children, which caused an uproar in the court. The emperor was furious and wanted to kill Lu Qing. At this time, Lu Qing actually knelt on the ground and cried in front of him. He said that he was forced to do it. How could he kill his wife? Lu Qing's words made everyone calm down. They thought that there was a reason. The emperor was not an unreasonable person. He also wanted to hear what Lu Qing had to say. After all, he was the new top scholar that he personally selected. If there was really a problem with his character and he did such a bad thing, he would also bear the reputation of not knowing people. Lu Qing took a deep breath and said, "Father, I was not willing to marry the princess." When these words came out, everyone was shocked. Wasn't the prince consort and Her Highness the princess in love with each other? Every time they saw them, they felt that they were a very compatible couple. Then tell me, why did you marry the princess? Princess, you forced me to do all of this. Lu Qing's face was sad. This was originally a secret that I hid in my heart for a long time. If the princess did not do it so viciously, I also planned to hide it for a lifetime and not say it. I really didn't expect that the princess would not keep her words. I had already agreed to marry her, but she still wanted to kill my wife and children. Lu Qing's words made everyone's shocked expression unable to be hidden. Thinking about it carefully, didn't it mean that the prince consort was willing to marry because the princess used his wife and children to threaten him? Even when he said that he was not married, it was also because of the princess's coercion. In order to let his wife and children live well, he chose to swallow his anger and stay by the princess's side. He did not ask about the safety of his wife and children. He only thought that the princess should keep her words. He never thought that he trusted the princess wrongly. If the new top scholar, his son, LV Yufan, did not appear, he was afraid that he would be kept in the dark for the rest of his life. Now that the princess had killed his wife and child, no man would be able to tolerate it. He would definitely expose everything. The emperor naturally did not believe it. How could his daughter do such a thing? His most honorable princess was gentle, virtuous, and courteous. She was definitely not the kind of person who would harm innocent lives. However, Lu Qing produced evidence. The letter from the assassin sent by the princess and Huan Zhu, the princess's personal maid, testified. Both witnesses and evidence were present. The two top scholars wanted to seek justice. Even the high and mighty princess would not be able to escape the blame when the hearts of the people were on her. Naturally, the host was punished. But because she was a princess, she was only stripped of her title and demoted to a commoner, trapped in a nunnery for the rest of her life. All of this happened too quickly. The crown prince wanted to help the original owner of the body, but because of the covetous third prince and Lu Qing, he was quickly pulled down from his position. The third prince's younger sister, the second princess, had taken a fancy to Lu Qing. In the end, the third prince became the crown prince and took away the emperor's power, forcing him to abdicate and become the emperor. Granting the marriage between the second princess and Lu Qing, LV Yufan only felt that he had taken revenge. As for who Lu Qing was with, it was not important. At this time, LV Yuji appeared. LV Yuji was chosen by the third prince because of the title of the top courtesan. She entered the inner court and was now one of the concubines. The peak. Chapter 1459. Once, he accidentally overheard the conversation between the third prince and Lu Qing. Only then did he know the truth. After LV Yufan found out the truth from LV Yuji, he was extremely vexed. Now that the third prince had become the emperor and Lu Qing had joined the third prince, they held the highest authority and could not do anything to Lu Qing. Thus, they planned to assassinate him. Of course, they did not succeed. Because the Lu Qing of this world was the male lead, even LV Yuji and LV Yufan were his sons. It was impossible for them to deal with him. In the end, both of them were killed and it was announced that it was done by an enemy country. From then on, Lu Qing had a meteoric rise. He had many children and was very happy. What a cruel person. After Tang Guo recalled the plot, she commented. A mere Lu Qing who was born as a poor scholar and whose parents had both died, actually used the princess to reach the heavens in a single step. Lin Yuexiang, his son and daughter, as well as the original owner of the body, the emperor, were all stepping stones under his feet. The third prince had something on Lu Qing, so he naturally dared to use someone like Lu Qing. The emperor liked to use this kind of person who had something on him. Only then would the other party be obedient. Lu Qing was already below one person and above 10,000 people. He was not afraid that the third prince had something on him. His surname was Lu, and it was not that simple to change the dynasty. It was better to follow the third prince and obtain a lifetime of glory and wealth. Host, what should we do with this world? Look at that Lu Qing, he is still throwing flirtatious glances at you. After seeing those things, I only feel that he is greasy and disgusting. Tang Guo was amused by the system's words. It is a bit disgusting. Ruthless and heartless, no wonder he could climb so high. But since the host came, he would not have a good life. Host, what do you plan to do? I don't like him, and I don't want to have any emotional entanglement with him. Didn't my second sister also like Lu Qing? Let the two of them flirt. Tang Guo hooked a leg of the curtain and glanced at Lu Qing's position. She called out to Huan Zhu, who was standing at the side with an infatuated face. Huan Zhu, return to the palace. Your Highness, what about the new top scholar? Huan Zhu thought that Lu Qing was such a good person, Tang Guo should like him. Now that she heard Tang Guo's indifferent voice saying that she wanted to return to the palace, she was a little anxious. The princess did not like the top scholar, she had no chance to get close to him. Him, what does he have to do with me? Return to the palace. Your Highness, actually. Said Lulu NN, Lulu you Lulu, Lulu, Lulu e, Lulu Lulu Lulu. After the palanquin was carried away, Huanju panicked and hurriedly followed. The princess was angry. She stomped her feet and ran away quickly. She did not have time to look at Lu Qing. Lu Qing didn't expect that the first princess, who had been staring at him just a moment ago, would leave just like that. Furthermore, the other party's personal palace maid did not stay behind to deliver a message to him. So, did the first princess fancy him or not? Her Highness, the first princess, had a noble status, and he had yearned for it for a long time. For today, he had prepared well and spent a lot of money to bribe the first princess to choose a prince consort, so that he could perform well. Just as Lu Qing was frowning, a woman dressed as a palace maid came in front of him. Lu Zhuangyuan. "Hello," Miss Lu Qing asked politely, "what can I do for you?" Lu Zhuangyuan, "This is a gift from His Highness. Vertex." Chapter 1460. This palace maid was the personal palace maid of the second princess. Lu Qing's originally disappointed mood suddenly improved. There was a smile on his face. "May I know who this young lady's master is?" "My master is the current second princess." The palace maid handed a folding fan to Lu Qing. Her Highness just saw the talent of Lu Zhuangyuan and admired him even more. Thus, she ordered me to give this folding fan to you. There is a poem on it that the princess doesn't understand, so she wants to consult Lu Zhuangyuan. Of course, Lu Qing wouldn't refuse such a good thing. Moreover, he was just a top scholar. How could he refuse the princess's invitation in front of everyone? Although his heart was leaning towards the eldest princess, he couldn't offend the second princess. Thus, he accepted the folding fan in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. His expression was incomparably admirable. Since it's the second princess's request, this one will definitely carefully read the poem on the folding fan and answer it well. "Young lady, please wait a moment." Lu Qing's calm performance made the surrounding people admire him. It also made the second princess, Tang Shi, who was hiding in the palanquin, very satisfied. She liked this new top scholar even more. Not long after, the personal palace maid handed the poem that Lu Qing had answered to Tang Shi. Even if Tang Shi liked Lu Qing, she couldn't directly go up to meet him. That would make people look down on her. It would also damage her dignity. Thus, she reluctantly left. "Your Highness, you really don't like Lu Zhuangyuan?" Huanju followed the palanquin and said while wiping the sweat on his forehead, "That's the top scholar. He also has a dignified appearance and is overflowing with talent. He's currently the most outstanding man." Tang Guo glanced at Huanju and smiled. There are countless talents in the imperial city. In terms of appearance, there are many who are more handsome than Lu Qing. In terms of talent, there is always someone better than you. How could he, the new top scholar, become the most outstanding man? But this consort doesn't like him. Tang Guo chuckled when she saw Huanju's disappointed expression. "Huanju, could it be that you've taken a liking to him? If you really like the new top scholar, Ben Gong can make the decision to bestow you to him. How about it?" Of course, Huanju was willing to become Lu Qing's woman. However, she didn't want to be given to him as a concubine. Without the support of the princess, she would be a thorn in the eyes of the future matriarch and would not have a good life. Unless the princess took a fancy to Lu Qing and wanted him to be her son-in-law, she would help the princess try out the marriage and become Lu Qing's woman. Huanju did not say anything else. After Tang Guo entered the palace, she went to see the empress. The empress looked at her and asked, "Guo, how is the new top scorer?" "Imperial mother, this son doesn't like him." The empress doted on her only daughter the most. The crown prince, who was standing at the side, also doted on his biological sister. When he heard Tang Guo's words, he immediately said, "Since you don't like him, then don't want him. There are many good men in Beixia. Guo, don't be anxious. Let's take our time to choose. Your imperial brother is right. Don't be anxious. Guo is still young. You have to choose carefully. Host, Bei Shia's good imperial mother and good imperial brother. Millimeter in her soul, there was still the original owner's wish to protect her family. Since she was here, she naturally wanted to help her realize it. When the emperor heard that Tang Guo did not take a fancy to the new top scholar, he only expressed regret and did not think much of it. Since his precious daughter did not like him, then forget it. However, Lu Qing was very unwilling. After that, he often did things to attract Tang Guo's attention. Peak. Chapter 1461. Lu Qing's poem was nothing more than praising Tang Guo's beauty, but because of Tang Guo's previous attitude, he was not confident that he would be able to attract her. Therefore, even if he wrote a poem praising a woman's beauty, he did not specifically point out who the woman he was praising was. What was even more clever was that one or two of his sentences might be praising Tang Guo, while the other one or two sentences might be praising second Princess Tang Shi. Lu Qing himself did not say anything, but all the people in the imperial city who were interested in him were staring at his poem praising a beauty and guessing. Some people thought that he was praising Tang Guo, some thought that it was Tang Shi, and some guessed that it was some daughter of an official in the imperial city. Your Highness, this servant thinks that Lu Zhuangyuan's poem is praising you. Look, he wrote it so well. Huan Zhu secretly looked at Tang Guo's expression. Seeing that Tang Guo glanced at the paper and did not seem to be interested, she was speechless for a moment. Her Highness's thoughts these days, she was more and more unable to figure out. Your Highness, do you really not think that Lu Zhuangyuan is good? Tang Guo gently raised her eyebrows. Huan Zhu, you have been by my side since you were young. When it comes to choosing a son-in-law, whether I like Lu Zhuangyuan or not, when did it become your turn to influence my choice? If you really have feelings for Lu Zhuangyuan, I said before that I can make the decision to give you to Lu Zhuangyuan. This time, Huan Zhu was really frightened and lay on the ground. Her face was pale and her body was trembling. She only thought that after serving by the princess's side for so long, she could give some advice. But that Lu Zhuangyuan, she really thought that he was good. Such a talented and outstanding man, she did not understand why the princess did not like him. Now that the princess was angry, she did not dare to mention this matter again. But in her heart, there was some resentment. She had good intentions. Even in the entire imperial city, an outstanding man like Lu Zhuangyuan was rare. If the princess did not make a decision early, such a good man would be fancied by other women. She had heard that the second princess also fancied Lu Zhuangyuan, which was why she was anxious. Your Highness, please forgive me. I won't dare to do it again. Get up. From today onwards, whoever dares to mention Lu Zhuangyuan, scram out of the palace. These words were very effective. Not only Huan Zhu, but also the people in Tang Guo's palace knelt down and said that they would never mention Lu Zhuangyuan again. In the imperial city, Lu Qing was still trying his best to attract Tang Guo's attention. If these scholars wanted to attract the attention of the princess in the palace, it would be nothing more than their poems and paintings. Once they were famous in the imperial city, there would naturally be people who would spread the news to the palace. He could spend some silver taels to find out what was going on in the palace. Since it was something that everyone knew, it was fine. The people in the palace didn't mind telling them. For people like Tang Guo, she had already sealed off the news from her palace. She didn't even allow the people around her to talk about Lu Zhuangyuan. Not to mention the people outside the palace, even the people inside the palace might not know what was going on inside. Lu Qing naturally didn't know that Tang Guo had already blocked his messages. No matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't reach her ears. About half a month later, Lu Qing was very disheartened when he saw that there was no result. Fortunately, there was still news from Tang Shi. But he was very unwilling. From the beginning, he was aiming for the eldest princess. Everyone in the northern Xia kingdom knew that the eldest princess was the most favored one. Moreover, she was the daughter of the empress and had a noble status. A few days later, Lu Qing heard a piece of news and was overjoyed. The peak. Chapter 1462. To admire the flowers. Huanzhu said in a low voice, "That's right, it's currently spring and the flowers are blooming. Your Highness hasn't left the palace for more than half a month. Do you want to go take a look?" Tang Guo recalled the plot. At this time, the original owner was already exchanging letters with Lu Qing. She was wholeheartedly devoted to Lu Qing, the great scholar, and did not invite her brothers and sisters to admire the flowers. As mentioned before, Bei Xia was very open. If the princess and the prince wanted to leave the palace, they only needed the emperor's permission. If it was someone like Tang Guo who was favored, they could leave the palace at any time. The only ones who were truly restricted were the palace servants and the emperor's concubines, who were not allowed to leave the palace. "Then let's go." When Huanzhu heard this, he was overjoyed. Tang Guo glanced at the other party. This girl really didn't learn her lesson. If it wasn't for the fact that she was still useful, she would have beaten Huanzhu. This person who gave false testimony and caused the original owner to be lonely and helpless. In the end, she would not let him go. She would only chase him out of the palace or secretly kill him. That would be too easy on him and would not be enough to vent her anger. Since the other party liked Lu Qing, she would definitely help him. Lu Qing definitely had a reason to encourage her to go out of the palace to admire the flowers. During the flower admiring season, there would be many scholars and beauties. Wherever she went, Lu Qing would definitely appear. Huanzhu was not stupid, he must have guessed it. System. Tang Guo was deep in thought. Huanzhu did not see her calculating expression. This time, not only did Tang Guo have to go out of the palace to admire the flowers, she also had to bring her brother, the crown prince. This crown prince had grown up under protection and did not have any competitors. No wonder he was so impulsive to help Tang Guo. He was not prepared at all. If he didn't fall, who would? In order to live a carefree life in the future, this brother of hers must be able to pick a fight. System. He suspected that the host was training cows again. Cows plow the fields, she was only responsible for eating grains. When Crown Prince Tangji heard that Tang Guo invited him to go out of the palace to admire the flowers, he naturally agreed. He doted on his only sister the most and liked to watch the fun. There was no reason for him to disagree. On the carriage, Tangji commented, "Guo Lu Qing's reputation has been very good recently. From the poems he composed, it can be seen that he is indeed a rare talent." Tang Guo said indifferently, "There are many scholars in the capital who can write poems, and they are not worse than Lu Qing. Imperial brother, I'm afraid you have a misunderstanding." When Tangji heard the different evaluation of Lu Qing, his curiosity was piqued. The relationship between the two siblings had always been good. Tangji wasn't a narrow-minded person, so he wasn't angry at Tang Guo's words. Instead, he asked, "Guo, do you have other thoughts? Lu Qing can compose poems, write essays, and his drawing skills are not bad. He also knows how to flatter. Imperial brother, why don't you ask him if he knows how to control floods? The northern part of Bei Xia is always dry. Does he have any good ideas to change this? It just has to rain in the south. What should we do?" Tangji, dear system host, these questions, even the ministers might not know. Guo, these questions of yours are too difficult for a new top scholar like him. All right, I won't make it difficult for him. Then let's find a simple one. What should he think about the corruption case? The emperor is far away, and the officials in the remote areas take advantage of the common people, but we don't know about it. What should we do? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.